Alright, so let's go ahead and play around with some fun stuff. I've got my colored rectangle right on the spot. I haven't connected it yet, so nothing's there. I'm going to go ahead and connect it to show our colored rectangle. It's kind of plain, it's kind of boring, nothing really happening at the moment. Right now, I've showed you a little bit about the spatial and about the, I haven't really showed you the border. I don't really use that very often. You can have a particular border of a certain color, as you can see right there. The width as well, we can increase that if we needed to. But the real purpose of this video, I wanted to show you how you can actually create automatic changes to these particular values. Now keep a notice on these images. This is a FLT, a float. In programming, a float is a particular, or mathematics really, a float is a number that has a decimal. They can go to huge numbers. In computers, it has a lot of space to be able to work with. Now, right now it's kind of stationary. Let's make it move a little bit. Under sound, we have our input visualization. I'm going to go ahead and take this little guy out, and let me show you what I can do with this. So the VU at the top is going to be your main distribution of sound. When it's louder, it gets to a higher number sometimes. And these two really don't have a particular difference. They move at the same numbers. I'm guessing there's a left and a right if you're doing stereo. And then of course left and right octaves as well. They seem to function the same manner as well as I had in my cheat sheet. I'm gonna take, let's see, this guy. I'm actually put some music in the background only because my voice isn't really that interesting. So let me set this up real quick. Alright, you got some music in the back. Let's see, I'm gonna play with the bigger ones here at the moment. Now notice I'm connecting a float to a float. One thing I noticed is electric sort of music, anything electronic or digital, has a very wide range of octaves, only because at this level you can play with a lot of different sounds as opposed to realistic instruments where it depends on certain octaves. So as we can see, our angle is changing by the sound. It's an automatic change depending on what our input is, and it doesn't have to be input from this sound recorder or listener, but that's interesting. Alright, I'm gonna take off this border. It's kind of annoying. So what about our little 3 arrow bit? If you can kind of see it, this image is a 3 arrow, basically telling you a 3-dimensional axis, and it is giving you 3 numbers. It's giving you one number, comma, another number, comma, another number. Well, in this case, we're going to have to create a maths object, or a module. Let's work with arithmetic. I'm going to use a float 3. And, no, that's going to be something else actually. Oh, no, okay. I don't need this, I need an actual converter. The converter will take multiple inputs and to another input. So 3 float to float 3, meaning 3 numbers in, 1 3 number out. So here's our 3 floats, and we can convert this to a individual based float. Let's go ahead and take 3 of these particular inputs, as so. And what do we want? The size. So now we've got a interesting little dancing triangle that's a little bit spastic, moving around based on our higher sounds, or our main sounds, for the rotational angle, and our octaves for our size. So deeper sounds, or my voice particularly being certain octaves, will make this a bigger triangle. Rectangle. Correction. Next, let's do some color changes. White is alright. Let's do a for float to float 4. The reason I'm using this one is because our color is a 4-sided image deducting a 4-dimensional sort of number. I'm going to move this guy up here to get him out of the way. Take my 4x4 here, and I'm going to use these octaves. Not going to be much of a difference in comparison to the other. Now this is going to be R, G, and B, just like these numbers is RGB. The last number is going to be the alpha channel, so sort of a see-through. I don't want it to be 0, so I don't want to pick a small number. Well, I might as well try it out and see how it works. Plug this guy in. So yeah, so it's too much see-through right now. Take this out. Let's pick a bigger number. Alright, that'll be a little bit better. Now notice again that there is a minimum. There is a 0 to be the minimum, which is essentially see-through. Now I don't want this to be see-through, I just want it to be a little bit alpha channel. A little bit see-through. So I'm going to go into my arithmetic, do some binary, and I'm going to do an add. Here's where the fun begins with the mathematics. We have two inputs. Normally you can set these two together. Here's our output here. So if I add 1 and that, I'm going to put this here. Let's unplug it first. Now we have a stationary 1.8. A reason for this is because 1.09 plus 0.71 is going to be about 1.809. Now I don't want it to be too stationary. I want it to be a minimum of how see-through it can be. I'm going to use about, let me do the top one, I'm going to do about 2, and the bottom I'm going to connect it to our guy here. So that's a little better. Let me up that a little bit. We got a little brown, that's why it's blending into the background. And I can do that for a few modules. So let me get our other bits here. So that's our blue. Blue is the dominant color until all the other ones decide to go forward. You have to play with the numbers. 0 to 1 is normally nothing or everything. So if we go in between the decimal points, we're able to balance that out pretty well. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. If I hold control, I can click and drag, and kind of select multiple modules so I can make some space. And you can already see how this can get a little cumbersome, especially with so many bits and pieces. That's why you always want to make sure you're organized with what you're doing. So I've got that. This is directly connected. Let's connect it over here. Add it here. And get this. And one more. Now it's going to give me a grayish white because all of the color is minimum is the same amount, 0.37. That means when all the colors are at the same intensity, it's going to give you a white-like color. Now it's reddish. Now it's pink. So we can kind of put random numbers here to disperse the color. Too much red, so on and so forth. So you can kind of play around with these bits and pieces to get some good coloring going. But really, a rectangle isn't that interesting. I'm just showing you the controls at its basic function and how you can play around with automatic sequences and arithmetic to kind of set the control, so you don't have to keep messing around with these buttons, because it won't really make much of a use if you have to manually change everything. And that'll basically conclude our preview of how to play around with this system, VSXu. I'm going to be making some more tutorials. I've got a few more tricks under my sleeve before I run out. I don't know a lot about this software. I'm trying to work around and explore on my own, but we will see how that goes with time, right? To the next video.